it's being brought up more and more and more.
Yeah.
And so what's going on here with the Uniparty?
Yeah. So, and again, this is just my perspective on it, but Washington, D.C. to me seems like this massive machine, right? And there's so many groups and institutions and special interests and lobbyist groups that benefit from the money that constantly gets pumped out of that place, right? And so because a lot of those lobbyists and special interest groups support politicians, often, and they'll support politicians on both sides of the aisle. It really doesn't matter to them. As a matter of fact, if it is bipartisan, if they get bipartisan support, meaning they get Republican support and Democrat support for the same thing, it's often a much better chance that they'll get whatever they're pushing for over the finish line. Okay, so because of that, oftentimes you'll see like what you just saw last week with the at least $4 trillion and 165 Democrats voting for a bill and 149 Republicans voting for a bill. And now they don't, because one of the things that we proposed when we were doing our bill was that it would only go to next year. I believe it was March of next year. But they pushed, in their bill that they passed this last week, they pushed it out 2 years so they wouldn't have to deal with it again next year. Right? And so like if you were in financial trouble, Shawn, or even like let's say your marriage was in trouble, the marriage you'd probably be like, the marriage counselor probably wouldn't be like, hey, come back in 2 years. He'd probably be like, hey, I want to see you next week. And if it was the problem was more intense, hey, I want to see you 2 or 3 times this week. And so when we passed our bill, we actually wanted it to be kind of a short turnaround period so that we could, what we were saying is take another bite at the apple. We got these cuts in there on this one. Let's come back here, in a few months and do this again. Take another stab at it, get more cuts, right? Keep having this conversation. But what the Uniparty did, is they pushed it out a couple years. There was no cap on it. And then, but what's the result of that? Everybody gets paid for 2 years. Oh, it wasn't quite 2 years, but everybody gets paid for a while. We don't have to worry about that for a while. So that's a big part of it. And it's always, the same culprits, money and power, right? And they kind of work together. And even the media works with them. And I mean, you knew that, your viewers knew that. But I would, and I think that this is one thing that, even Republicans and conservatives have started to see over the last couple of years. Some of the people that you watched on TV for many years and trusted, might not be as patriotic or as conservative as you think. And that's tough. That's tough to even say, man. But all I can tell you is in the midst of that speaker fight, when it seems like the weight of the world is bearing down on you, you're wildly outnumbered 10-1 in your own party, and people on television that you've watched for years and listened to on the radio are saying that you're a terrorist and, you're an idiot and you're a moron and what are you doing? You're going to give control to the Democrats. That's something you never forget. And that's not to say that I don't have grace, because I think we all get it wrong from time to time. But that was a very eye-opening experience for me to watch the media give air cover to the Uniparty when what it should have been doing was, in my opinion, covering for the actual conservatives that were fighting for change in that fight, fighting for a check on the Uniparty.
Well, I think, I think I know who you're talking about.
And, there's not just one person. There's multiple people.
Yeah. Well, we just saw Big News Corporation, when we just saw how controlled they are with the Tucker Carlson thing.
Yeah.
It just right there just proved it.
Yep.
It proved all of it.
Yep.
You know, now what did they slap him with? A cease and desist. He's not, I mean.
I haven't even seen what they slapped him with, but he was their top guy.
Yeah.
And, I do believe Tucker Carlson's a truth teller. And I believe he has more courage than, the vast majority of people in this country, probably worldwide, because, you've heard that saying, it's always a lot further fall from the top. And even, whether you're in politics, professionally, in the media, etc., not a lot of people have the courage to roll the dice when they've gotten comfortable and they feel like they've got a lot to lose. But that's one thing that whether you agree with Tucker Carlson or not, whether you agree with everything he's said or, every story he's ever run or not, that guy has courage, dude. And that was pretty telling what, Fox did.
Yeah, well, the ratings are way down. What are some other things that the Uniparty is involved in?
Like, one of the things that surprises me, is holding people accountable.
Okay.
Right?
Good.
That's something that I think that there's a strong Uniparty current on. One of the, raise your hand out there if you're a Republican and you think Secretary Mayorkas is doing a good job. Raise your hand if you think he's derelict in his duties. Raise your hand if you think he should be fired, right? And this is one of the things that just blows me away. I mean, how much evidence do you have to see before you're like, okay, this guy has to go? And even if you guys are going to replace him with somebody bad or even worse, we'll deal with that guy when he gets here or that gal when she gets here. But this guy needs to go, okay? And there'll be Democrats and Republicans that all the Democrats would stop that, but there would be Republicans that wouldn't vote with us either to make that happen. And so you'll see stuff like that where Americans are like, they're begging. Shawn, they're begging for somebody to be held accountable. Like it makes them sick. It makes it sick to their stomach, dude, knowing that there's a double standard, one for them and one for people with influence, in high-ranking positions, and that's another area where the Uniparty will often, move in lockstep, make deals, cut deals.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.